it, and we love love itself. We love love itself. Now, this morning we'll be looking at a very important issue. I remember that it was earlier last week that it was first mentioned around, somewhere in Ibadan, that the state government there was actually warning its people that Valentine's Day is coming. You guys, warn yourselves.
Warn yourself.
Watch what you watch what you will do on
Don't
Valentine's Day.
misbehave.
Don't misbehave. So I was like, okay, so God, and of course, that's gotten to that level that state government can start saying, guys, watch what you do on St. Valentine's. It means people do things that are not supposed to do on Valentine's Day.
Crazy things.
So you know the kind of things they do.
9 months after Valentine's Day.
Anyway, this morning we have a very interesting topic that says guarding against unregulated Valentine's Day celebration. It has before all other stakeholders up to the government. Very interesting issues we'll be looking at this morning, and we have someone who should know, a youth advocate, and one who is definitely all about the place, talking to youth and representing youth, and of course being their voice. Mr. Tayo Akinpelu is our guest this morning. Good to see you again,
Thank
sir.
you so much for coming, sir.
Good morning, and good to see you too again. Nice to be here once again in the studio.
Yeah, good to have you around. Tayo Akinpelu, it's Valentine's Day 2025.
It's a season of love.
Okay.
A time to talk about love. A time to remind ourselves about love.
Been throwing in of love.
Has any woman asked you this morning?
Question. Or rather, but definitely.
You need to know how many of such I have received today.
Wow.
Yes. Where are you taking? I said, for waiting now.
Only you.
That's quite interesting.
Anyway, Tayo, it's good to have you.
Same here.
Now, before we begin to have state governments telling their people what you do on Valentine's Day, and indeed mobilizing, sensitizing.
Well, definitely. You and I know that a lot has gone wrong. I would always say that gradually, when Valentine's Day was initially celebrated, was the concept about love was focused on agape love, and this love is expected to be shared. Among friends and all of that. However, in recent times, Valentine's Day is now gradually focusing on more than that. Where we focus on times to have sexual intimacy, like we said earlier, where the focus is about, if you are not there today to show me love, then there's no love. Different philosophies and here and there. And then a lot of innocent young girls and young boys these days also become victims. And eventually we have the result. And, if you also do not also provide such love, we also have cases where it results into rape and some other forms of violence and all of that. And at that point, it requires quite a lot of sensitization, a lot of engagement. And it's good that this morning we're here to talk about the role everybody has. Start from the young people themselves. And it's important to remind ourselves what is the reason behind Valentine. It's not necessarily associated with sexual intimacy. Love is something. I saw a flyer, and I so much appreciated it.
Okay.
I think it was from the student of School of Nursing in Abeokuta here. And they wanted to visit Stella Obasanjo to share love
on Valentine's Day.
and I was like, oh well, good. We have young people who think like this, and so again, um, we should not underestimate or overhype the fact that there are still people who have still continued to do the right. I'm sure when it's evening. Some people would accuse us of not wearing,
The colors
the
of
colors.
colors of
To
Valentine.
be sure that 6 p.m. people start flying colors, and then people start flying colors, and all of that. So
You mentioned something interesting that the celebration of love and the love we talk about on a day like this is not the sexual thing, and the sexuality should not be emphasized on a day like this. So, can you give us an insight into what brought about the celebration of the love we talk about on Valentine's Day, number one, and then that goes to know what to do on a day like this?
popular one is the fact that this day it comes around and then share gifts, among friends, among colleagues, and so everybody look up to it. And I think that should be the focus around it. It's just a time to remind ourselves that there's still somebody who cares about you, and it should not go beyond that. Yesterday, somebody was saying that was asking me that should married, should a married man or spouse have another Valentine? And we started the discussion. I was like, well, yes, obviously your spouse should be a Valentine, but again, you don't necessarily have to. It doesn't have to only be your spouse. It could be your colleague at work. It could even be people in your neighborhood and all of that. But the essence of it, the most popular um, history and the essence of it is the fact that we want to share love. And sharing love involves exchange of gift just as a form of appreciation, you know. But when it goes beyond that, to say, then it becomes more transactional, and I think that's where the problem arises from. So if I give you a gift and then I expect that naturally
You must give
you
me
must
something.
give me something in return. So, and in most cases, it becomes I have sexual desires and sexual expectations and all of that. I've read a lot of posts online here and there. Even people joke about. This is today you know who is original, who is all of that. So,
But where did we actually get it wrong? Because it has gotten to a stage where after buying a soft drink and meat pie, then special things are lost. Where did we get it wrong?
we got it wrong from our value system generally. The value system is gradually eroding. And over the years, people have come to accept, gradually. One thing is that when you begin to accept the reality, the no, something is a norm. So you find situations where before now, if you give me gift, it doesn't mean I should. I remembered growing up, we have what we call exchange of gifts. So which means that you give me something, I give you something. In fact, at some points you don't even know who your value is. It's always very fun. Somebody has been sending messages to you, and then this day we open up the gift. So it's you and all of that, and then it ends there. But over time, it now became an issue of I want it expressed more, which is more with the younger generation. Obviously, some elderlies also take advantage of that. And then you begin to ask for more, you know. And then we begin to misinterpret what is love. So we have situations where you say, if you don't have sex with me, then you don't love me. And then it's a misgiving for the definition of love. And then we end up where we are, where now, if we don't end up in bed, we have not celebrated Valentine. So I think the message should be clear. Sex is not love. And until we get to that point where we understand that sex is not love, you know, and I can express love not necessarily until I have sex with you. So, I mean, and then the young girls, the ladies are able to say that and affirm that. The men also are groomed to understand that the fact that I express my love by giving you a gift does not also mean that you must have sex with me until I
expectations
appreciate.
that are not so.
Is it that the parents are not doing their job, talking to their children?
Well, back now to the stakeholders. The truth about it is, value system is everybody. From the home, obviously. Um, the definition of love needs to be emphasized. There are parents who never told their children, "I love you." I mean, it's rare. They don't. They don't even. So, and when a child hears that from an outsider, it then begins to be interpreted as something else. So, if from the home we're very clear about this, there's a likelihood that such children will not get out. And then the other thing also has to do with sex itself, um, because where we have the challenge is linking love with sex, you know, making love equals to sex and sex not equal to love. So the moment we're able to change the narrative and we're able to understand that love in itself is seeing somebody who is in need and expressing, so without necessarily
And to get something in
expecting
return.
something in return. And the school system is also very important, because young people stay more in school, and so it's also important that teachers also play a very vital role. People will hear, young people will have mindset about what love is. How do we help them correct it? I mean, in schools today, because another thing about this generation is that whether you discuss it or you don't, they would find a way around it. So I always advise churches, schools, all the institutions that have responsibility of framing your mind, they are able to, have these discussions. And young people of nowadays they are not just young people of you give instruction. They want to have like a consultation, the approach has to be different. Before now, if you say don't go there, they say okay. But now if you say don't go there, they say why? And then if you feel I said don't go there, they just look at you and say, well, let me go and check myself. And then you have lost that part. So people need to understand that it's more consultative than instructional now. So until people get to that level, and so these issues around love, sex, and all of that, when you discuss them, you are likely going to be at a better chance, than the way it used to be. But it all boils down to our value system.
Now let's look at the pattern that we have created or that we can create. All right, you mentioned something the other time that you saw a flyer of a certain group of people, youth, who wanted to pay a visit to those in privilege so they can extend love to them. When my mom would come home from her school when she was student, she's retired now, and she would tell us, my Valentine, in my office, I'm supposed to package something for her or for him. Among the teachers, it's like the members of staff of a particular institution or organization, they have organized themselves. So this is Valentine's Day. We want to do this among ourselves. And they, pick themselves like roll papers. You don't even know the person you're picking until you pick the person. The person will not be the same person who will pick you. And they exchange gifts among themselves. And that would be it. A way of lighting things up, expressing love, connecting, So it's a pattern that can be recreated and rechanneled to show an example. So are there things we can do differently, that can be, because that's to me is even a cake. Because for the younger generation, that will not even fly. All right. So, are there other things we can do that can connect to the younger generation and show them the
Let me
pattern?
just
The most important thing is we all have agreed that the narrative has changed before. And so to bring back the essence of it, I mean, such ideas will be very wonderful. And like you also pointed out, I mean, that's an example where you're in schools, you were expected to bring a gift. So what it does is that it frames the mind of that young person as he's growing up. It doesn't see it as, I mean, it doesn't link it directly to sex. And then you are able to move on. And I said earlier, the challenge we've had with a lot of young people, possibly that have been post secondary, is that we have left some of those discussions undiscussed. And so they have had social media on their peers to, I mean, define what it is.
So, on what platform are we supposed to have such discussions that would be beneficial?
Every platform, like I mean, like the station is doing now, every available platform. We all know that February 14 every year is dedicated to love. We should use every available platform to reorient ourselves on whatever it is. In our workplaces, like you said, for students in their schools, for I mean, like I also said, we also have religious organizations role in shaping the life of. So we could organize. There's nothing stopping our religious, I mean, our mosque, our churches, from also bringing these young people together and say, okay, share love. I mean, let's redefine the concept around love. Let them begin to say, I mean, young people are very, very creative. You'll be surprised if you sit them down and say, how best do we, I mean, implement this? They will come up with a lot of vibrant ideas. Now, coming up with those vibrant ideas will make it easy to gradually change the mindset. And once the mindset changes, then you will be sure that we will likely be back on the right track. But we're in a mix at the moment. The people who feel love must be sex, and the younger group that is just